special guest,
Pierce Leiden.
This is the Power Motion Picnic Hour.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Power Motion Picnic Hour. As always, I'm your host, Dave, and as always, alongside me is...
Trevor.
Hey, Trevor, how are you?
I'm doing quite well this evening.
Ooh,
How about you, Dave?
I'm doing good. I can barely stop talking. What a week in running it has been.
A huge week. Technically our shortest week in running.
It's true. We recorded 5 days ago.
Saturday. This time I remember it was actually Saturday and not Sunday.
Yep.
And it is now Thursday.
It's now Thursday, and we actually saw each other 3 days ago and ran a race together.
Incredible.
Yeah. We ran the what was it called? The New York Roadrunners Brooklyn RUN 5K in Prospect Park on Monday evening. We saw our special guest for this evening, Pierce Leiden. They were there running and taking first place in the non-binary division. We were running a little farther back towards the middle of the pack, per usual. Yeah. We did cross the finish line holding hands.
We did. It was my first Roadrunners event, and I was actually not officially part of the race. So I did just kind of pace you without a bib.
Yeah, and that's true. And I definitely think I ran faster with you pacing me, and your smartwatch helping us.
You know, better together or whatever.
I have no idea what time I would have run if I was just doing it based on sense of smell as I usually do it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how much, like we discussed strategy a little bit, but ultimately we decided very Dave style to just go out and do what felt right at the time, which, you know, because I was like, do you want me to sort of try to push you and like push a certain pace? Do we want to shoot for a certain pace? The only thing you gave me was a goal.
Yeah.
Which was a sub 25.
Sub 25, and we ran a 24:52.
Yes. It was very well paced, with the exception of, and I'm giving myself some credit here, admittedly, but I was like the whole race, I was telling you how far ahead pace we were. I'm like, don't worry, we're way ahead of pace.
Until we weren't way ahead anymore, until we got close to the end, and you were like, I think we got it.
Well, I mean, as often happens on air, I was doing math incorrectly because I had forgotten about the last 0.1 as like, I'm like, it's just 0.1. But if we're running 6 minute miles or no, we were running 8 minute miles. So, you know, it's a decent amount of time.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
I was like, we might finish sub 24.
You forget. That's because you forgot about that extra minute of running. Yeah. And so when we were, you know, back in the day where people didn't understand why they were teaching us the metric system in elementary school.
Right.
This is why.
This is why.
What a great race, though. I feel like, because usually these Roadrunner races, when I do them, most frequently they're in Central Park. This one was in Prospect Park, and it was so jam-packed. It was much more crowded than usual, I felt like. And that first mile was amazing.
We burned it, yeah.
It felt like we were in Pamplona. It was just running around people, jumping over puddles and curbs, and it was a totally wild scene. Like it was our fastest mile.
I don't think we were passed. I mean, we just took down Corral D. I remember seeing a couple runners like that were next to us at the start, sort of like as we move forward. I was like, okay, that's our pace. Like we got to keep that up, because we ran like according to my watch, like a 7:30 first mile.
Pretty good.
Which part of my pacing strategy was that let's see how fast we can go on the first mile.
Yeah.
Then let's give it like a little break so we can then sort of put in a kick at the end, which I don't think we actually did.
Not much of a kick. Not much. I mean, maybe technically a kick, but yeah.
It was the last 100 feet or so when we joined hands.
I think that was one. Yeah, 100-foot kick. Well, the hand holding might have slowed us down.
It might have.
Yeah, we have to shave 2 seconds off that time. We just keep our proper form.
Yeah. But we did see special guest Pierce afterward. We saw the medal ceremony or trophy. They got some piece of hardware.
Yeah, there was I don't know, what was it?
Maybe a plaque.
Yeah, some kind of plaque congratulating them on their second consecutive first place finish in the non-binary division. So pretty sweet. Because I also saw Pierce at the Retro 4-miler Saturday before the last episode, which is when we first met and talked about maybe taking this thing on the air, bringing this show to the airwaves.
Yeah, they were very very open to the idea, as I remember you telling me, and they jumped right on, and I thought it was such a cool conversation, and like, yeah, just very appreciative of our special guest.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, and we'll cut to that a little bit later. We probably have a few pieces of business we got to get to first.
We probably should. As always, we're wasting time. Just going way off track.
Just talking about anything. What do you have as far as important business items that need to be discussed?
Yeah, I do have a correction.
I have one too.
Okay. Yeah, fact check. So we were speculating on air whether Courtney Dauwalter was winning the Hard Rock 100. She was. She turned out to win, set a course record. So just a phenomenal, like, historical, beyond belief, 2 races to set course records at both Western States and Hard Rock by like huge margins, like both over an hour, both well over a Power Motion Picnic hour, and in very like short time. There's only a couple weeks in between. And on air we said, or at least I said, yeah, I think she's going to do it. Correct on that. Where I was incorrect was sort of trying to guess or trying to like speculate what the time might have been, and I was completely going off of no anchor, no baseline, no reference.
Yeah. You were
Western States. I'm like, it's harder than Western States.
You were like me running without a watch.
I was, and so it was not 18 hours. It was 26. But that's the new female course record for Hard Rock.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's harder. It's actually much harder. I mean, yeah, what would that be? Almost 8 hours harder, 9 hours harder. So there you have it.
Okay, well there it is. And then my correction is similar, except you said 18. My correction is someone wrote into the mailbag to tell me that there were not 8 episodes in the 3rd season of Twin Peaks. There were 18 episodes.
In the 3rd season?
Yeah, the 3rd. I had the first 2 seasons right. It's 8,
okay.
Then it's 22, and then I said 8 again, but 8, 22, then 18. So anyway, right now what is this, episode 3 of season 2.
Mm-hmm.
The good news is that there are at least 37 more episodes of the Power Motion Picnic Hour. At least.
Yeah. And I'd say it's like a race. We might end up DNFing, but it's unlike a race in that we might not stop at 18. We might roll into a season 4.
Yeah.
So the listener, I think I know the listener is a little bit concerned. It's okay, trying to buy a few more episodes. There may be episodes past that.
And it's like, we took a 19-year break on this podcast, and Twin Peaks took like a 25-year break, right, in the show. So it's pretty similar. We don't know if Twin Peaks is done. We don't know when this is going to end. It's pretty exciting, and I know I'm just, I can't wait to find out what happens next.
Yeah, well, in typical form, I'd say a Power Motion Picnic Hour being roughly, on average, 40 minutes, very, very similar to our 19-year break relative to the 25 or 24 in Twin Peaks.
And episode length is unpredictable too. I mean, any of our longest listeners would know that the Power Motion Picnic Hour, the original college radio show, was originally a 3-hour show.
It's true.
It was Sunday mornings from 3 to 6 a.m. was our first time slot.
We had a lot of filler in those shows.
Yeah, we had room. They were like, these guys, they're going to go on some tangents. Let's give them a 3-hour slot. In Vermont, so mostly listened to by farmers or people who passed out without turning their radios off.
And little did the original listeners know we would one day go on to become a popular running podcast.
Right? You never know. You never know what's going to happen.
No,
That's what's exciting.
Life's unpredictable.
Yeah, that's like the old expression. Life is like a college radio show. Sometimes 30 years later, it reinvents itself as a popular running podcast.
That's right.
I think that's how the old adage goes.
Yeah. Who in a major coup somehow land like the best non-binary runner in all of New York.
Yeah, for us
as special guest number 2.
Yeah, for the last 2 races. So and we'll see, and we'll hear more about that coming up. That's been teased multiple times already. At the beginning of this episode, I have do you have more mailbag?
Let's see.
I do. I got a mailbag. Our listener wrote in to give me some specific advice and recommended that I do strides for speed. And I don't know if that's like if that's a thing or if that's just casual language, but 4 times or 5 times 30 seconds twice a week, sometimes on hills.
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell me what I have to do to follow this instruction? I'll take any advice. So
yeah,
I just need that translated into language I understand.
Well, I mean, yeah, because Coach Friend talks about it, builds in strides. Yeah, it's all about, I think it's about building sort of the some of the mechanical components, like the efficiency of your running motion, the more power you can drive. And when you're running fast, you're forced to run efficiently, I think. And then even as you're slowing it down, I might just be making all of this up, by the way, but as I recall, like doing short bursts of speed will improve your overall running like quite substantially.
Okay, that feels right to me, because sometimes I've talked about my chronic knee pain. Sometimes when I'm running and my knee is really hurting me, what I'll do is I'll just start running fast, and it'll kind of shake it out, and then I'll slow back down after my knee feels better. So.
Yeah. And it was explained to me that a stride is not a sprint. So don't like run as hard as you can, like you're chasing after a basketball or something. Like run at about like a good mile speed. So for you, I'd challenge you to run like, I don't know, 7-minute pace, say, for 30-second bursts. Like,
how far do I space the bursts?
2 minutes, 3 minutes. Wait until you feel like relatively like fully recovered.
Okay, so I feel heart rate down a little bit again.
Yeah, and repeat the coach always says repeat the effort. So you don't want to like do your first really hard and then your fifth like poorly. Like do it at a pace that you can do each one at the same level.
Okay.
So maybe even take the first one like a little bit like softer and then ramp it up if you have to.
Okay, maybe I'll try that this weekend.
Awesome.
And we can follow up on that next time and see what is that supposed to do for me?
That's I'll ask. I'll get some intel before next week. Yeah, maybe I'll get some intel. I'll tell you off pod, and then we can come back to it on our very first. We have to come up with a name for it, but talking about that workout we heard about. Yeah,
that segment, the new we'll write a new theme just for that segment. Talking about that workout that we just heard about. That's good. That sings pretty well. We can make that rhyme. We could almost write this thing on air if we had more time.
Yeah. Well, sometimes making it up on the fly yields some fruit. So let's see, other mailbag. I'd love to talk about Benet, the French runner who came in number 2 at Hard Rock, and the amazing mailbag post we got, which was, we just decided as a public service to share with the world in the form of a post where Benet talked about in his interview, which was through a French translator, how he had seen eight bears in training, and the 9th bear that he saw on the run was like in the trail. All the other bears had kind of left him alone, and then this bear was just in the trail. And he said a phrase in French, and then he would then go on to say things like at that point he realized the bear did not speak French, and but eventually the bear moved out of the way and watched him in awe of what a strong runner he was. And he said all of this like very deadpan to his translator, and he's like cracking up a little bit, and then the translator has a hard time getting it out, and then everybody just laughs. It was pretty awesome.
Oh, that's great. Is there a video of that?
There's a video.
I gotta find it.
I just took a little screen grab from the video for the post that you can check out on Instagram.
I mean, French can only be spoken deadpan, right? That's like the only way to do it.
That's like the only way.
Yeah. I mean, maybe our listener in Belgium could write into the mailbag and give us their perspective on that. But
cool.
I've watched a lot of French films over the years, and yeah, it's just a lot of deadpan. Everybody talking like Jacques Brel or Serge Gainsbourg, like those. Yeah, that delivery.
Mostly laughing is an appropriate response. You're in on the joke in that case.
Wow, what a mailbag this week is.
I've got one more. So
okay.
Actually, I similarly had a recommendation come in separately for Strides. So I think I've got some homework. I'll go get you some more info on what they're for. And I should know that because I was just doing this at the start of the year, but I kind of forget what it was for.
That's okay. This is the fun part of the running season where you just try to not get dehydrated out there running in the heat wave or possibly Canadian wildfire smoke, depending on what you're dealing with on each given day. Yeah,
if we had Pierce after this segment as opposed to before, they probably could have explained it to us too. But
that's true. But as our popular podcast guests know, we tend to reference them in episodes even after they haven't been on the show anymore. So hopefully the dialogue will continue. Into the future.
Agreed. So last mailbag recommendation about the appearance of the Zero sandals to be worn maximum stylish. This listener recommends painting toenails.
Oh, okay. I'll do that. That's sure. I'm overdue for a pedicure as it is. That helps with running, having your nails well maintained.
It goes from just another person running around in Teva-esque footwear to some badass who also has painted toenails.
Well, that's good, and I'll pass that along to our female tester as well, who actually right before we started recording just left my apartment where she also lives, and with the Zero sandals strapped to her feet.
Ooh,
to go for another run. And as she was leaving, she said she felt like she felt like a cat with things stuck to its paws and made that kind of motion, and then went out. I like that, and then went out to brave the streets of New York in Zero sandals. So,
well, yeah, next time with some flair on the toes.
Yeah,
give it a shot. I think that's about all I had. Should we move into Song of the Week?
Let's go to Song of the Week since since we have such a packed agenda for this episode.
Yeah.
So Song of the Week this time, it was my turn, and you had asked me to pick one, and so 3 weeks later I obliged and finally picked the song. And I feel like the last time I did a Song of the Week, I was talking about how all the or most of the best bands these days are coming out of Australia.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked an Australian band last time, so I figured I'd pick another Australian band this time. And so I picked the band Civic from Melbourne, and the song we went with was Blood Rushes.
Sitting on the phone, I can see it, I just adore you.
So this, I think, was the first time we did a song that we both knew, right?
Yeah. When you mentioned the song, I knew it right away. I had actually been running to it recently. It was a part of my sort of, I don't know, I have this running movement sort of playlist, and I added it to that. Although I don't often use the playlist, but every once in a while I think, all right, I got this stash of songs that I thought at one point would be good running songs, so maybe I'll throw it on at some point.
This is an exciting one because it's a very new song, right? It's from their latest full-length album, Taken by Force, which just came out in February. So, contemporary music. So how did it run for you? I guess if it's on your running playlist, it runs well for you.
It runs well for me, yeah. It ran well enough to throw on the playlist, and I have run to it. I didn't get to run to it since learning it was Song of the Week, which we usually try to do, but but I did have a chance to listen to it a few times. I like Guided by Angels. It kind of starts out and with a very good, like, strong drum beat. Just right out of the gates, which I know you've been doing a lot of drumming recently. I don't know if, but they're both very drum heavy intros.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a good pace, although this one is slower, right? And so I feel like it's even a little slower than the paces I usually run, although it might be good for playlists where you're trying to use to increase your distance and run slow to increase your distance. I think if I was like the drummer for this band and we were playing this song, I feel like after we finished, they'd be like, "That was great, everyone. A little fast." They would tell me I was drumming too fast. This is one of those, but it's a great tempo because it does kind of like get in that groove, which is cool for a hard rocking song.
Yeah, no, it's definitely got a groove.
I say it runs.
I say it runs.
All right.
Yeah, it had a very good, like, sort of surf sort of groove almost, and I was feeling that, and then I read their own self-description, which I thought sort of nailed it for me, like what I was attempting to sort of like, what I was feeling about it, which is they said we're sort of like something like between 1984 and the Endless Summer soundtrack. And I was like, that's kind of it.
Yeah, and I know those guys say they want to harken back to like Australian, punk rock bands from the 70s, like the Saints and Radio Birdman, which feels right. But also, even to me, when I hear Civic, I kind of feel some late Stooges, early solo Iggy, some mid 70s Iggy. I feel that too. So anyway, it's welcome. It runs. It's our equivalent of the 2 thumbs up. Siskel and Ebert, if they rated it, would both give it I don't run. But we give it our 2 yes it runs.
Yes it runs.
And then this overlaps into this week, actually, because I ran to it today and I ran to it yesterday. And before I did, I cartwheeled right into the gear shed, and I pulled out something I mentioned last week, a pair of Skull Candy Mini and Mighty Dime 2 wireless earbuds. And I've worn them twice. Once running on a treadmill and once lifting weights. And they're pretty good. I've had one fall out twice, so at some point one's going to fall out and bounce into the Hudson River, which will make me feel good about only spending $25, which is one of the perks of these headphones.
Oh, deal alert.
Yeah, they fit pretty well. They're easy to use for my technologically challenged brain. The only problem is they didn't get that loud, I felt like. So because of that, I'm giving them 3.5 units in my review.
That's fair. Yeah, as listeners know, we receive no remuneration yet from Skull Candy, and after that review, maybe never will. But I think it's fair. I mean, you need the volume. That's a key feature of the headphone.
Former future sponsor Skull Candy, their lowest gear shed review ever. That's okay. We'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just the starting point and a discussion that'll end with a Power Motion Picnic Hour signature series wireless headphones.
Man, these things fit my ear and the volume works so well.
Yeah. I'll illustrate if they put my name on it or our faces on the box, then that review could change pretty quick. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe they'll be responsive to the feedback.
Maybe they're listeners and they'll write into the mailbag and attempt to issue a response as a correction that we actually got the rating wrong, and Skull Candy Mini and Mighty Dime 2s are a 5 out of 5 unit review in the gear shed.
I think a little controversy might be good for sort of the visibility of the Power Motion Picnic Hour. Might drum up a little activity and in the running world.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think so. Next week we might have a very special episode. I'm going to record from, I think, New Hampshire right before Friday when I'm hopefully doing the presidential traverse.
Well, maybe let's do a little preview of that episode. But first, maybe let's go check in on our interview with Pierce Lydon that we recorded and see what they had to say and learn a little bit about Pierce and all of Pierce's recent weekend running, and we went even further back than weekend running since this is pretty much our first conversation.
That's right.
All right, let's do it.
This is the Power Motion Picnic Hour.
Pierce, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, thanks for joining us. And we always like to have the special guests introduce themselves, right, Trevor?
Yeah, it can be, you can just say your name, or you can tell us a little bit about yourself, your choice.
Sure. I'm Pierce Lydon. I am 34. I've been running for a bit. I did win New York Roadrunners top non-binary runner in age 30 to 34 category last year, so that was cool. I got
For the whole year?
I got like a little. They sent me like a little Tiffany plate.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's very cool.
And I did not go to the dinner because I was in Costa Rica, but it's cool that I won.
Yeah, that's also cool. Wow.
That's very cool.
And yeah, I don't know. That's me. That's my running shit anyway. There's a bunch of other stuff, I guess. But
what type of running did you do in high school?
I was a hurdler.
Nice.
I ran a real slow 55s. I was like an 11-second 55 hurdler. It's not good. I never got the 3 steps down.
I always did the 110 was like my best. And then did you ever do the 300?
I didn't, but I would get tapped to do steeplechase every once in a while, which is
cool.
Not hurdling. And we're not able to practice that in my high school, but the way that my high school would win track events is that they would never turn anybody down from the team. So we would just roll up with like 300 kids sometimes, it felt like. And like they'd be like, all right, how many we got today? How many relay teams can like you could input as many teams as you wanted in, I guess, your Catholic high school track events. So the hurdlers would turn into like team ZZZ of like the 4x4. And we're all like, this isn't a distance we ever run. We have Fridays off. We don't even practice every day.
The Catholic division. I played CYO basketball when I was in middle school, but that was my last and maybe only run-in with Catholic competitive sports.
Well, I went to public school for like, grammar school and middle school. So like we didn't really have teams unless you played like the PAL leagues or whatever. And we just didn't do that. I grew up in Queens and could have done it, but I just didn't do any of those sports. And I played hockey growing up, also roller hockey. And so when I went to high school, I didn't make the ice hockey team. I was like, I guess my dad was like, join the track team. I was on the track team. I went to the same high school as my dad. But he was like a decathlete. He was like a middle distance runner, some cross country. And he still has race walking records at our school, but race walking is just not an event anymore in high school athletics.
What is race walking?
It's very specific walking because you can't have both feet off the ground at any given time. Okay. So if you look at like clips of it, it just looks like a bunch of dudes with really clenched butt cheeks.
Yeah, it's like there's a commercial with Chris Paul doing that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And
cool.
And they're just like wiggling.
Oh yeah.
Because they have to make sure their heels keep touching. Because if your heel doesn't hit first, if you don't heel strike, you're running.
I was always wondering the reason for the wiggling. I thought it was more of like did you ever use the roller racers when you were a kid? That like you
sit on them.
Yeah. Like move the front like both ways, and the wheel goes and it propels you forward. I was thinking it was more like that kind of thing.
I think it's just to keep the stride.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
Going so that you like always make sure to heel strike. so that you never go up to your. I mean, I think like the world record in race walking for the mile is like pretty fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably faster than I run a mile.
It probably is. We should check.
Yes,
We'll have our fact checkers, which are basically just us. If we remember after the episode, we'll look it up. And my bet is fastest race walking mile definitely beats probably both of our fastest miles.
Well, yeah, I don't know what mine is. It's been a long time since I've tried to run a fast mile, probably since, I don't know, maybe the track team in high school, but that wasn't my event. Pierce, I did look up your times to recent races on the New York Roadrunners website, and I think I saw that you ran a 5:15 mile.
I did run a 5:15 at the Fifth Avenue Mile last year.
That's killer. Are you going to do that race this year?
I am. I'm doing that one and Brooklyn Mile.
Okay, I got to sign up. I want to find out how fast I can run a mile.
It's really fun. I think I like the Fifth Avenue Mile more than I like the Brooklyn Mile. The Brooklyn Mile is on Kent, and Kent kind of like turns.
Yeah.
And you end at the waterfront park, right? So It's weird because you get to a point where you're like, I think it should be over now, but it still has a little more because it's felt a little bit longer for some reason.
Yeah.
Whereas the Fifth Avenue Mile, you're like, if I see park still, I just know I'm not done because I have to get basically out of the park. Last year was a bit of a. So my girlfriend and I run together a lot for these races. She started running more like when we met about a year and a half ago. I guess almost 2 years ago. I can't get that wrong. 2-year anniversary coming up.
We'll edit it out so that you got it exactly correct.
Yeah.
So she's a CrossFit person, and
cool.
she's like, I'm not going to run. That seems like a lot. And I got her to do like a virtual 5K once, and she was like, that was cool. I like medals. Medals are cool. It's like races are cool. And so then her first real race was an NYC Runs half marathon. I did the half marathon. She did the 5K on the same event. Like that, we'd only been dating for like 3 months. And she was like, that was cool. I like races. Let's do more of those. And now she's done her 9+1. But when we were getting to the Fifth Avenue Mile last year, like we bike into Central Park whenever we have races there.
Okay.
And we were like clipping along. We had to be up at like 5:30 in the morning, because we're not biking super fast. And she gets a flat. And then she doesn't even get a flat. The chain gets tangled, and it gets tangled in a way where we stop, and for 20 minutes I can't. I'm like, I don't even know what's happening here.
We have to throw this bike in the river.
Yeah, like a stranger tries to help us. Like that doesn't help at all. It maybe makes it worse. Now she's freaking out because we're running out of time. And I think she had an earlier heat than me because she's slower. So it was the opposite of what normally happens.
Yeah.
And so I was like, don't worry, we'll just get on the subway. I'll take the bikes, like whatever. When we found a place there's like nowhere to tie your bike up in Central Park. And so when we finally found a place, it was still like a mile away from where the start of the race was.
So she had to the starting line?
She had to run a mile to the starting line. I was like, great. I still have like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
She jogged to the starting line and then had to run her mile like almost immediately. Whereas I was like, I'm just going to over.
That's so funny.
My best mile though is 5:13. That was Brooklyn Mile, probably 2019.
Oh, cool.
2019. It was a while ago.
That's a fast time. Yeah, I have a similar. Me and my girlfriend have a similar history of running. I've always liked to run slowly, but I've always liked to run, and I was on the track team in high school too. And during like pandemic lockdown, we started running. And needed stuff to do, and so she's a good athlete, but she went from being not much of a runner to now she's in the 9+1 program, and she's just did her first half in May.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, so building up to planning on doing New York next year. So
hell yeah.
Exciting.
Question: how much did she train for her first half? Like, was she worried about it and then like trained a ton, or was she like, I'll be fine?
She was training. Like she initially, maybe like 3 months out, she got on a real calendar, and was doing a certain amount every day. And then I think just work and other things just got so hectic that the last few weeks, or maybe even the last month, she really could barely train. But luckily, I think a half is a little more doable with under training than like a full marathon. because
Yeah.
I ran my first marathon in May, and I think I trained a
Congrats.
lot. Oh, thank you. I think I trained a lot, but it was rough. It went a little tougher than I thought it would. Although it was a lot of fun.
Marathons are always I've done 3 now. My first one I did in 2018 before I basically so I started like I didn't run for a really long time. I didn't really do sports in general. And then my dad, there was one year he ran like 4 marathons in a year. It was like 20, I want to say like 2015, 2016. And I was like, my dad is like, and he wasn't in great shape, and then he like suddenly really was because he was running so much. And so he's like 55. He ran like 4 marathons in a year. I was like, that sounds cool. Like,
Yeah.
but I was like, hey, Dad, like, you ever want to hang out? I'll go do a 5K or something with you. And he was like, yeah, okay, sounds great. And because we don't really have anything in common, so running could be a thing that we talked about.
Yeah.
And then he kind of stopped running, and I kind of just kept doing it and doing my little 5Ks here and there. And like, I did a Prospect Park 5K in like 2019 that I won because it was like a charity 5K and it wasn't like super competitive. But I was like, oh, cool. And then I ended up moving to Crown Heights. And so I lived so close to Prospect Park, I could just kind of train all the time. And when I moved there, I was like, oh, man, I'm turning 30 soon. It would be cool if I did like a marathon before I turned 30. So that I decided that in January, like right after I turned 29. My birthday's in December. So I was like, all right, it's the end of January. I got like 3 or 4 months to train until like the end of May. I mean, yeah, I'll just do it. I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't look up any training programs. I didn't really do anything. I was just like, I'll just like run, right? That's all you got to do. Seems pretty easy.
It works, right? I mean, that's my approach, and my results have been mixed. But you seem like you've had better results with that approach than me.
It was really interesting, though. I had become so comfortable at 5Ks and like even the occasional 10K that I was like, I can't. Like, there was a while where I was like, I can't imagine running 10 miles. So I did the Queens Marathon, was my first marathon, NYC Runs race.
Oh, cool.
Which NYC Runs is fine. They run nice races, but the course for that race is god awful.
Is there just cars driving through it the whole time? And
no,
that's what I picture.
It's just that Flushing Meadows Park is really big, but it is like so under construction and poorly maintained as a park that so many of the paths are like they were like not open. So it was a path that was a 5K.
Okay.
We did 8 loops.
I did a 5K there. It was probably that loop, but a million times.
With a million turns and like whatever.
Yeah,
and so
that's right.
Yeah, the week before I'm like, let me try to do 20. So I do 23. And I was talking to somebody who was like, why would you do that? And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, you're supposed to taper. You're supposed to like run less. Like you should have done your 23 like 3 weeks ago and then like tapered down into being ready for 26.
Yeah, but you also have to do what your heart tells you to do.
Yeah, exactly. Really,
you go out and beat that person at the race.
Yeah. And then the race was really small. It was maybe 100 people. And I ran a 3:16:15. I was very happy with.
Nice.
Still my PR. I still have not run faster than that. But I remember but my dad came to the race. My dad, everybody really loves my dad comes to races. And I say everybody, but I mean like strangers love it because when they realize at the end of the race that like I'm talking to this, who is this guy? I'm like, oh, it's my dad. I'm like, he was cheering for me. I was like, yeah, he doesn't know you. He will just cheer for people running.
That's great.
That's awesome.
And that loop is so weird that he could run to different points on the lap, like pretty easily.
Yeah.
And like cheer me on at different points.
That's right, because it's the circle and
it's like in on itself.
Yeah, it's like bunch of
I remember him seeing me like as I'm about to go into lap 8, and I've seen the mile 26 marker since like the first lap, and I'm just like, I can't believe I have to do this again.
Oh, I know.
I'm dying, and I'm about to go out, and he's like, all right, looking good. Catch the guy, gray shorts. And I'm like, Dad, not catching anybody, just trying to get through this.
To survive. That's amazing. That reminds me of when I just ran the Providence Marathon in May. I was running with one of the pace groups for a while, so I was running with like the same people for like the first 10 or 11 miles before I started to run into trouble and slowed down.
You separated.
Yeah, I decided to
by falling back a bit.
Yeah, I started my own group, and one of the women in our group, her husband he was cheering for her, so loudly. But this race is like, this wasn't like running around the park. It was like an out and back, right? It was like 13 miles south of Providence, 13 miles back in. And he would cheer for her, and then he would run back to his car, and then you'd see him drive by because the roads weren't closed. And then he would yell and cheer for her from the car, and then we'd pass him again up ahead, and he would be cheering for her again. And then he would pass us again. It was amazing. And he would do this like twice a mile.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's dedication right there. That's the cheering squad you need.
He was great. And then since we were running as a pace group, then he started cheering for all of us like about 4 miles in, because then he started recognizing us because we were all together for so long. And yeah, it was pretty great. Similar vibe to your dad in the park. Except this guy was a menace with keeping his eyes off the road. It was pretty cool, though. It was pretty cool.
So one last kind of like running foundational type question, but do you have like a favorite length? What's your best length? And is it also your favorite, or are those two different things?
I training for that first marathon got me the distance bug. The half is my favorite distance. I mean, I run a fast half marathon. My PR is now 124. At the time, it was like 128.
Oh yeah.
So like I'm running I know for me, it's like less than a movie to run a half marathon. But I find it a little easier to train for. It's like less like those 16 and 18 and 20 mile runs when you're training for a full.
Oh yeah.
Are brutal sometimes. Especially
like you were saying, that 23-mile run, because I did one like that training that was 20, and then just like my feet hurt.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't run for like a week after that.
Well,
yeah, because you're trying to get used to like time on feet.
Yeah.
Anything else.
Yeah, and you're I mean, you're fast. You're clearly fast. I mean, I think Dave met you at a Roadrunners event. I met you for the first time when you had just won your division at the Brooklyn 5K just last week.
Mm-hmm.
And so like every race that like we've been to, you've won.
It's true. It was exciting week for this group as far as there's 3 of us for winning races.
I will say it is a small division. I'm even in a race with 4,000, 5,000 people. I'm only really running against maybe like 50. The most I've ever run against is during like the front runners Pride 4-miler because.
Oh yeah, there were so many. There were so many people there in general, right? Like there were like 12,000 people.
Huge race. It was a huge race.
Huge field in general. That was an awesome race. That was so fun.
But there are definitely a few folks who are in my division, Jay Soul and I'm probably pronouncing their last name wrong, and Jacob Caswell, who are monsters. Like absolutely, they're so fast. They put me to shame. I'm always happy to see them because I like running with them and they make me want to run really fast. But I also know I'm like, okay, cool, maybe not placing today.
Oh, really?
Takes the pressure off a little bit.
Oh yeah, they're both super super fast, and I follow them both on Strava mostly so I can steal their workouts.
Nice.
I got to get on Strava, don't I? We talk about that sometimes on here. How I'm not on it, and I should be.
I don't know that I don't know if legally you're allowed to have a running podcast and not be on Strava.
That's true. Oh, God damn it! I'm gonna go lock the door. The police are going to do a no-knock arrest on me. But yeah, okay, I'll do it. I think I have to buy like a smartwatch though, right, to be on Strava, right?
You don't need it because you could just start it in the app.
Yeah,
in my phone. Yeah,
it's a little bit less accurate that way, but it's fine. You can do that tomorrow. Although we did, Pierce, we do a segment which is listener mailbag each week, which is really just people that like send us DMs on Instagram or text or whatever, or just happen to see us and talk to us. But one listener was commenting, Dave, about how much of an inspiration your sort of like analytics free, just soul running, free running is. And he was saying it's something he wants to get back to. In fact, he'll still record. So, eventually go back and look, but he's going to stop looking at the Strava for a bit because he's in a kind of a dark place with his running right now.
Okay. Yeah. It might be good. It might be good for the mental state. I don't know if it's good for like achieving goals, like I was saying, what race was, at the Retro 4-miler, where we first met. It's so funny because I thought, I didn't think I was going to PR, but I thought I was going to, and my PR for that was 31:59. But I thought in my head, I was like, I bet this is going to be like a 32:20. Like, that's like what my completely whatever unplugged brain thought I was running, and then I got my phone for bag check after and looked it up, and it was a 33:59. It was my slowest one of the year when I thought it was my second fastest. So I don't know, but I had a great time. So
That was a good race.
yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I will say that I was not I wasn't a watch person for a long time,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty stubborn about that stuff. Like when I first started really getting into distance running, I was only using Runkeeper, and I
Huh.
only used Runkeeper instead of Strava because it did this thing at the time where it would sync your pace, like your cadence with music. It would like
Ah.
sync with Spotify. Like it
Mhm.
like you didn't need anything else. You just need Spotify and Runkeeper, and you told Runkeeper like you play my Spotify at the speed I'm going essentially. And so my cadence would be like 165 or 170 steps, whatever. So it would only give me songs of that speed that I already liked or
Oh,
that what it was recommending to me, and it would fade in and out. So like
wow.
if the song was gonna like change tempo
Yeah.
significantly, um,
Or
it
if you
would
change tempo, does it do that?
no, that was the only
Okay.
thing. If I slowed down, it wasn't
Yeah.
great. So it was better for shorter runs where you're trying to like and but that did kind of teach me like, oh, I kind of know what I am at. I know what 7:30 pace feels like because that's what I
Mhm.
was running at the time. Because I was doing lots of like 2 and 3 mile runs where I was like, oh, I only have like 15 minutes today. All right, let me just get two in
Yeah.
and just be done with it. Um, but I got a Koros watch, I guess, during right before the pandemic or the first Christmas of the pandemic. I don't remember, but I
There's a
now
lot
never,
of them.
yeah, I now never take it off. Like I use it
Okay.
all the time, and it has. I used to see it as a bit of an impediment to exactly what you're talking about. Like sometimes it's just nice to go out and run,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and be like, oh, I know this route, so I know I'm doing about this distance, and that's fine with me. But especially as like because I like racing so much, and maybe I'm just too competitive, like it was frustrating for me to hit walls and be like, I feel like I can't run faster, because using only my phone to track instead of like using a watch, like it's not measuring heart rate, it's not really measuring, it's not the GPS is not as accurate on your phone as it is on the watch, like.
Mhm.
So it's like 1,000 different things that are actually, I think, really helpful. And the next race I have coming up is this like backyard ultra up in Maine, last man standing, and I have to practice like heart rate. Like it's all heart rate, and it's keeping heart rate in like zone two, which is 138 to 150 beats per minute. So it's just like, how do I live in that area? And it's impossible to do without a heart rate monitor.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
the watch is really helpful. And then when I go on a run and I see like 90% zone two, I'm like, hell yeah, that's a great run. I don't care.
Nice.
I don't really care how far it was, and I don't really care um, what the speed was because I need to like settle into this like forever pace.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you can run zone two for until you dehydrate and
Hopefully,
disintegrate. Yeah.
hopefully. I mean, that's the goal anyway.
Yeah, until your feet completely fall off from your body. Um, I was talking. I didn't know about any of that stuff until very recently, but I was talking to a runner who they did their marathon pace, and not even because you're talking about an ultra, right? But they did their marathon pace based on heart rate, and I don't know if it was zone two or whatever, but that's how they were doing it,
Mhm.
and they seemed to have a pretty successful time with that approach. Yeah, cool. It's funny. This portion of this episode has been the most. Me and Trevor usually get way off topic like a million times in this podcast and stop talking about running, right? And often we go into digressions about music, um, because we're both musicians. But you're a musician as well, so I figured
Yeah.
before we run out of time, I figured I'd give you a chance to say something about music or tell us something you like to run to, or even plug your band if you want.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I play in a band called Power Trash. We're like a post-punky something band. We're probably not that bad to run to, but I'd never run to us because I think that would be weird. But we put 2 singles out last year that are their names are references to Point Break because we love that
Nice.
movie.
Mhm.
But what I run to, okay, I race. I only race to Paramore.
Oh, really?
I only listen to Paramore. I don't
That's
know why. It just like works. It just like I don't know. It gets me there. Like runner's high is very real, and
Yeah.
sometimes just like I like grooving and just like having a good time, and it makes me smile. So if I'm having
Okay.
a bad race or a rough time,
Yeah.
right song pops up, good to go. I used to do 5Ks to only 2 songs at a time though. I would just put them on repeat, and it was January
Oh,
January 1979 by Me Without You, and
okay.
No Son of Mine by Every Time I Die.
Okay.
I would just loop those on repeat because they are both they're pretty fast songs, and January 1979 especially has such a steady beat to it that I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I'll just like lock in on this and like be good to go.
I'm going to try all of these at least before our next episode and
Hell yeah.
see if they work for me, because we find, Trevor and I, that we have a big overlap of songs that work for running for both of us, but then there's there's differences, because there is a personal, it's what works for you, what gets you pumped up, because there's a lot of it's mental, right? And a lot of it's where your brain goes when you're running. So I'm going to try those and see if those work for me. But to add to that, I have run to myself, and I enjoy. And I don't listen to my recordings that much, but I like running to myself every now and then.
I don't know if I would want to hear my voice yelling at me while
Yeah.
doing a thing that I'm already yelling at myself in my head for. I will say though, for distances over a 10K, I won't listen to music.
Yeah, I don't run. I only listen to music if I'm running on a treadmill. If I'm outside, I actually never put headphones in. But and I should add, I only listen to things of myself that are like older. I can't listen to anything like recent. Like if I recorded it, like I put on an album last year, I can't. I'm not going to run to that. but like something that I did like 10 years ago, I can listen to that. And it's kind of, I don't know. Maybe actually it's because it makes me feel younger, and so makes me feel faster or something. I don't even know. I'm not sure. That's a doctor or a brain doctor. Okay, well, I think it does look like we're running out of time over here. So Pierce, thank you so much for coming on.
For having me.
Yeah, this has been wonderful. I'm sure I'll see you soon on the New York Roadrunner scene.
Next one for me is the 5-mile team championships.
Okay, I'll be there. Oh,
Cool.
and you have a team, right?
Yeah, Beast from Reese. We're on Instagram at Beast from Reese. We're a triathlon group, but we do a lot of runs, and we're always at the races. And also shout out to New York Tri. They do the Rockaway Sprint Tri in September, and it's really fun. Everybody should sign up. It's a really good race.
Hells yeah, awesome. Okay, that's a good note to go out on. Yeah.
Oh, and come to our community mile, the Power Motion Picnic Hour. We're hosting it at some point this summer.
At some point, I'll send you info about it.
Will do.
All right. Thanks, Pierce.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Pierce.
Thanks so much, guys.
This is the Power Motion Picnic Hour.
Wow, what a great conversation. Thank you so much, Pierce, for coming on. We had a great time talking, and yeah, that was really awesome.
Thank you, Pierce.
Yeah. So, Trevor, right before we cut away to that interview, I think you started telling us a bit about your upcoming race next week.
Yeah, so going to be up in New Hampshire, getting ready to run the Presidential Traverse. So I'll be doing the podcast remote for the first time next Thursday night. We've sort of planned, and I think we were going to talk a little bit about sort of plans for the race. We can compare those with the results maybe once they're available. I think we can pull out a very special gear shed where we go through the pack, the setup for the Prezi, and maybe talk a little bit about the history of the Traverse and some of the controversy surrounding like FKT routes and what is an FKT, and even such fundamental things as what is a Presidential Traverse.
Wow. I mean, that's all very exciting. I can't wait to learn about all of that. It sounds like on the heels of a really big running week at the Power Motion Picnic Hour, we have an equally big week following it up. So that's very exciting. I can't wait to hear mostly about your time up there, and I'll fill in a little bit about my strides for speed.
I might give you a song of the week. I don't know. Maybe.
I like that. That's the Power Motion Picnic promise. You might get a song of the week. Tune in and find out.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a big teaser.
Wow, I'm excited. I can't wait till next week already.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, it might happen.
Yeah, spoiler alert, we don't know. Okay. Well, yeah. What a week it's been. I think we're running out of time over here at the Power Motion Picnic Hour, popular running podcast. We always say it's a non-elite running podcast, but it felt a little closer to elite this week. So we'll see if that continues as well. But as we always say on the Power Motion Picnic Hour, until next time.
Onward.
This is the Power Motion Picnic Hour, your favorite of the few, with a mile of opinions that we'll gladly share with you. This is the Power Motion Picnic Hour, you deserve nothing less. The Power Motion Picnic Hour, sometimes a special guest. Say your name, special guest.
I like grooving
This is the Power Motion Picnic Hour.
and just like having a good time.